There are many common habits car owners have in regards to using their cars that don't do so much damage, but cold starts isn't one of them. Frankly speaking, there are so many cold start mistakes that could end up wrecking your engine for good. What are some examples of these cold start mistakes that you absolutely must avoid? Stay with us in this video to find out. Number 1, revving a cold engine. Let's talk about one of the most common mistakes out there, and yeah, it's a real heartbreaker. Revving your engine while it's still cold. Sounds harmless, maybe even necessary, right? That big vroom vroom in the morning just to wake it up. But here's the reality. Your engine isn't doing push-ups. It's barely out of bed and hasn't even had its morning coffee. When you start your engine cold, the oil hasn't fully circulated through the system yet. It's thick like syrup and sitting at the bottom of the pan, slowly making its way to coat all those essential metal surfaces. What happens when you rev it hard before it's properly lubricated? You're basically asking metal to grind against metal with no buffer in between. Hey, if you're enjoying this channel focused on the European car market, don't forget to subscribe for more updates, insights, and exciting content coming your way. This puts serious stress on the engine's internal components, like the pistons, crankshaft, camshaft, and valve lifters. It's like doing a full sprint the moment you roll out of bed without warming up, and in your car's case, it can lead to long-term wear, scoring, and even engine failure. And if you're driving a turbocharged engine, even worse. Cold oil doesn't reach the turbo fast enough, and revving can kill it quicker than you think. So give your car a minute or two. Let it sit idly, let the oil circulate, let everything warm up before you get heavy on that throttle. It's not just about being slow, it's about being smart. Your engine will thank you later by not packing up just a few years into its expected lifespan. Number 2, ignoring battery health. Now here's one that doesn't just ruin your morning, it can ruin your entire winter. Let's talk about battery health. When the temperature drops, your car's battery feels it the most. Batteries hate the cold more than you hate stubbing your little toe. Cold weather slows down the chemical reactions inside the battery, which means lower power output and a much harder time getting the engine to turn over. Yet most people don't give their battery a second thought until it's dead in the driveway and they're begging for a jump start before work. But here's the catch. Ignoring battery health over time just doesn't mean an inconvenient no-start situation. It also puts a strain on your starter motor and your alternator. When the battery's struggling, the starter has to work harder to crank the engine, and that extra effort shortens its life. You should also be aware of the fact that doing this leaves your alternator trying to constantly recharge a dying battery while also powering everything else in the car. Eventually, something gives. And if you think this only matters on sub-zero days, think again. Even mild cold can trigger issues in older or weak batteries. So do yourself and your engine a favor. Get your battery tested before winter hits. Look at the age of your battery as well, because most of them last about 3 to 5 years. If it's getting close to retirement age, replace it. It's a small price to pay to avoid getting stranded in the snow or on your way to an urgent meeting. Also, keep your terminals clean, your connections tight, and consider a battery blanket if you live somewhere truly freezing, because a happy battery means a happy engine, and nobody wants their car to sound like it's stuffed up with ice cubes first thing in the morning. Number 3, using the wrong oil viscosity. Next up is a mistake that hides in plain sight. Using the wrong engine oil viscosity in cold weather. It sounds technical, but don't worry, it's not rocket science. Engine oil has a viscosity rating, which is basically how thick or thin it is at different temperatures. You'll see it labeled as something like 5W30 or 10W40. That W stands for winter, and the lower the number before it, the better your oil performs in cold conditions. So what happens if you're using a thicker oil, like something better suited for hot summer weather? Your engine ends up trying to circulate a thick sludge when it really needs is smooth oil. Thicker oil in freezing temps takes longer to reach all the critical parts of your engine, which means poor lubrication during the most sensitive time, the cold start. And remember what we said earlier about metal grinding on metal? Yeah, it applies here too. You're basically making your engine work harder just to keep itself from tearing apart. Even worse, a lot of people just go with whatever oil the shop pours in or whatever's been sitting in the garage for years. But manufacturers actually specify different oil grades based on the season and climate. Check your owner's manual, or better yet, talk to your mechanic about what viscosity works best for your local weather. It's a 5-minute conversation that could add years to your engine's life. And with modern synthetic oils available, there's no excuse not to use something that flows properly in the cold. Because oil isn't just about lubrication, it's about protection, performance, and peace of mind when you turn that key on a freezing morning. Get it right and your engine will stay healthy. Get it wrong and it might growl, or worse, seize up. Number 4, neglecting a proper cold start routine. We've all been there. It's freezing cold outside, and the last thing you want to do is wait around while your car warms up. But here's the deal. Rushing through a cold start's like jumping out of the bed and running a marathon without stretching. It's a recipe for disaster. When you start your car on a cold engine, the oil is thick and sluggish, struggling to circulate through the engine parts. Think about it. Oil that's supposed to keep everything lubricated is more like peanut butter at that point, crawling through the system at a snail's pace. If you hit the gas too quickly, it's not going to end well. Of course, you got places to be, and the last thing you want to do is hang out in your car waiting for it to warm up. So let's be clear here. We're not suggesting you let your car idle for 15 minutes while you sip your morning coffee. However, taking just a few moments to let the engine settle before you zoom off can make a huge difference. It's more about letting the engine oil get warm enough to flow properly and start doing its job. When that happens, all the delicate components in your engine, like the pistons, the valves, and the crankshaft, start working together as a well-oiled machine. The key here isn't to sit and waste time, but to give your car just a minute to let things start to come together. This way, you're not driving with a cold, sluggish engine that hasn't had the chance to lubricate and protect those fragile parts. It's like stretching before hitting the gym. You're prepping for peak performance. After all, a warm engine is a happy engine, and a happy engine lasts longer. So make it a point to give it that minute. Trust me, your car will thank you, and you'll be thanking us later when it keeps running smoothly. Hope you're taking down notes because we're not done just yet. Number 5, excessive idling. The good old idling. Most drivers are guilty of this. Leaving the engine running while we check our phone, chat with a friend, or wait for the snow to melt off the windshield. It's tempting, right? After all, it seems like the easiest way to keep the car warm or to avoid that dreaded chilly start. But excessive idling is more of a problem than a solution. Sure, it seems harmless, but in reality, it's doing more damage to your car than you realize. For starters, when the engine's idling, it's not operating at its optimal temperature. That means the fuel isn't burning efficiently and incomplete combustion occurs. What's worse, that unburned fuel dust doesn't vanish into thin air. It can build up inside the engine, leading to sludge that clogs up the works. Over time, this sludge can cause serious damage, clogging up critical components and causing the engine to run even less efficiently. Now, add the fact that you're burning fuel with no real purpose, and you can see how it all adds up. Idling for too long also leads to carbon buildup. This gunk can build up in the exhaust system and other parts of the engine, slowing down performance and reducing fuel efficiency. The longer the engine sits idling, the more likely you are to experience clogged components, rough idling, and even potential engine misfires. Plus, that buildup can affect your car's ability to pass emissions tests, which means more trips to the mechanic and bigger repair bills down the line. Idling isn't the magical solution to warming up your engine, it's just burning fuel while the engine isn't working at its best. Instead, it's far better to start the engine and give it a minute or two to run before driving off gently. Don't rush the process, but also don't let it idle indefinitely. If you need to wait for whatever reason, just turn the engine off. Give it a break and you'll be doing yourself and your car a big favor in the long run. So the next time you're tempted to leave your car running, think twice. Idling for extended periods is a slow burn for your engine's health, and it's just a ticking time bomb for future problems. Instead of running the engine for no reason, turn it off and use that time for something more productive, like learning a thing or two about why idling might not be as harmless as you think. Number 6, shutting down the engine too soon. All right, you finally got into your car, braved the cold, and zoomed off to your destination, and here's where another mistake can sneak up on you. It's tempting, isn't it? You pull up, throw the car into park, and then immediately turn the engine off. Because why not? Mission accomplished, right? Not so fast. Shutting down the engine too soon can also cause some serious damage, especially after a cold start. When you shut off the engine too quickly, especially after driving for only a short period, the oil and coolant haven't had time to circulate and dissipate heat evenly through the engine. This is particularly a problem if you've been driving hard or pushing the engine to higher RPMs in the first few minutes. If you turn off the engine right away after giving it a workout, you're setting up a scenario where parts of the engine cool too rapidly while others remain hot. This causes thermal shock, which can crack engine components or damage things like the turbocharger if you have one. The solution's simple, really. Just give your engine a chance to cool down before turning it off. If you've been driving aggressively, a minute of idling before shutting off the engine helps the oil and coolant settle and ensures everything has a chance to return to a stable temperature. Think of it like your body cooling down after a workout. Give the engine a minute to catch its breath. It'll thank you by lasting much longer. After all, engines need a break too. There you have it. The cold start mistakes that seem innocent but quietly sabotage your engine. Which of these mistakes are you fond of? Let us know in the comments. If you're enjoying this channel focused on the European car market, don't forget to subscribe for more updates, insights, and exciting content coming your way.